What's up everyone, Phil here for KO Gaming, and welcome to another mini review, where I give you my thoughts and impressions on something that I've played recently that I don't feel requires a full-fledged review, and the subject of today's video is the new Hitman game from Square Enix, which is going to be released episodically in 7 installments over the course of 2016. I actually just finished up playing through the prologue and episode 1 of the Hitman game, and I would like to give you my thoughts and impressions on the subject. First of all, before we even get to the content of what was released today, it's important to let you know that there's two ways to purchase this game. You can either pay $60 up front, as if this were a full-fledged retail release, and that will give you access to all of the episodes over the course of the year, of which there's supposed to be 7, or you could pay $15 to kind of do a test run of the game and receive the prologue and episode 1 today on release day, and then you could pay $10 for each individual episode as it's released over the course of the year. Now I can see the pros and cons of both options. Paying $60 for the game allows you to get all of the content, and you're only spending what you would normally spend on a full retail release. On the flip side of that, if you spend $60, you end up playing the beginning of the game and realizing it's not your cup of tea, you've kind of blown your money, and being that this is a digital-only release right now, you can't trade in the game to try to get any of that money back. If you spend the $15 to check out the prologue and episode 1, it is a cool way to get your first taste of the game and figure out if you're going to be interested in playing the rest of it and buying the rest of it as the episodes are released. But in the long run, you're actually going to end up spending $75, which is $15 more than a typical game. So as you can see, there are pros and cons to each option. I myself opted to go for the $60 release because I really liked the last installment of the Hitman franchise, Absolution, and I thought that I would enjoy playing this game over the course of the year. So what do you get if you play episode 1 of Hitman? Well, for $15, you're going to receive the first 2 tutorial missions called the Prologue. These missions are staged assassinations by which Agent 47 is actually 20 years in the past, meets Diana for the first time, and is being tested to see if his assassination skills are good enough to be employed by the agency. There's also a third and final mission, which is a real-time assassination in the present day, where you fly to Paris and are a guest on a top-notch red carpet fashion show at a really ritzy and swank mansion. Celebrities are in force, high-end fashion models are there, you see people strutting their stuff, and you have 2 different targets who you need to assassinate during this mission. So you get a pretty interesting kind of collage of gameplay for buying episode 1. You get 2 tutorial missions and 1 actual assassination set in the present day. However, I already got a red flag that I need to call out here. The 2 prologue tutorial missions were already publicly available for free in the Hitman beta that took place just a few weeks ago. So you may find it hard to justify the $15 price tag when 2/3 of the content in this initial release for the game was already made public and was free to everyone. And I'm kind of wondering what they were going for here, thinking that people were going to be willing to pay $15 when most people who were probably interested in this game already played 2/3 of the content. But it is what it is. I want you to know that up front before you do jump into the game. Once you start playing Hitman, you're going to notice some big similarities to the rest of the games in the series. It's very much open world. This is create your own assassination, and there are tons of ways that you can find to actually take out your targets, whether it's the straightforward sneaking up, putting on disguises, finding a way to get your hands on the target, taking them out, and then trying to escape. You can actually go in guns blazing, not caring if you alert anyone. Of course, if you do complete the mission in that way, it's going to be a lot more difficult to escape because everyone's going to be after you, and of course your overall rating is going to be pretty poor. Or you could go the creative route, setting explosives, having it look like an accident, poisoning something, leading someone to go into an area where it sets them up for a very easy stealth kill. All the creativity of the previous Hitman games is present in this Hitman game from 2016, and it's cool to see the series kind of go back to its roots after the Absolution twist from back in 2012, when a lot of people had issue that the series had maybe gone a little soft, was a little bit too linear, and that the assassin vision that was employed in that game maybe made it a little bit too easy. Yes, it does make its return in this game as well, but it certainly doesn't call out easy ways to do the missions, and there is a lot of free reign in what you can do in order to complete your objectives. That being said, a key selling point of Hitman is being able to go back multiple times, having replayability of these missions, and trying to find alternate and creative ways to take out your targets. For example, in the very first tutorial mission, I kinda went traditional style, putting on different wardrobes and disguises, looking like different people of the staff, and then finally sneaking through a window of the target in his office, taking him out with a silenced pistol from behind, and sneaking out the back. Pretty traditional, but then the second time around, I went for something a lot more creative. I disguised myself as part of the staff, poisoned the target's wine, which in turn made him get sick to his stomach, run to a bathroom. When he was in there, I put his head into the bowl, drowned him, and was able to sneak out before anyone was none the wiser that the guy had been killed. So as you can see right there, the massive amount of replayability and variety in the ways that you can take out your targets is a massive selling point for this game. That being said, if you're the kind of person that once you beat a mission, you're kind of like, well, my hands are clean, I'm done, on to the next, this is probably not going to be your cup of tea, because these missions can easily be defeated within, say, 10 or 15 minutes, as long as you don't do anything stupid, and you're going to find yourself kind of completing the game really quickly, unless you want to go back and do some of the optional ways to kill your mark. Now, just because this was an introductory episode, doesn't mean that they skimped on the creative ways to kill your marks. So spoiler alert if you have not played the game or watched a playthrough yet, but some of the cool ways that you can assassinate people include having an ejector seat malfunction, launching someone through the ceiling and up into the sky, as well as dropping an entire giant chandelier system on top of someone while they're strutting their stuff on the runway. Ugh. Pretty gruesome, but also pretty creative, and that's always been part of the big popularity and selling point of the Hitman series, and I'm glad to see that come out in this new game. However, outside of just the 2 tutorial missions in the prologue and the 1 main mission in Paris, there's really nothing else to this release. There are a few kind of optional side missions that are available of additional marks and things that you can take out, but they all take place in the exact same locations as those 3 missions. So really all you'll be doing is replaying the missions again, only trying to do it with some kind of a unique qualifier or a unique twist that really doesn't add too much variety-wise. So ultimately, playing through all 3 episodes of this game, even multiple times, at the least, if you rush through it, will probably be completed within an hour and a half. If you actually take your time and you do them multiple times, maybe it would take anywhere from 3 to 5 hours tops. And that's where I feel people are going to have some difficulty justifying the price tag. $15 for only 3 hours of gameplay, especially when 2/3 of that was already available in a public beta. I don't know if people are gonna like that. Now, if you just see this as the first of 7 upcoming episodes, the fact that the next 6 episodes are actually going to be totally different, no one knows what they're going to be, and no one knows, hasn't even had their hands on them or seen them yet, then maybe you can start to justify that price tag, especially if you didn't opt for the $15 introductory pack and instead bought the entire game for the full $60 price tag, which is actually what I did. So I'm kind of taking this intro as a grain of salt, as a sign of things to come, and also almost thinking in my head, okay, this first mission was fun and creative, but let's think that that was probably the easiest mission in the game because it was episode 1. Let's see how they amp up the tempo in the future episodes and how good it's going to get once we get near the end of the game, which typically is what happens with one of these Hitman games. Now, there is a story, and there's a couple key cutscenes that start to flesh out that story. We're really early on in it, and I'm certainly not going to spoil any of it for those of you who are going to play the game, but it is present. And graphically, I do want to say this. Very nice detail, tons of characters now, like probably more people in this Hitman game than ever in any Hitman game ever before, all of which are interactive and you can kind of push your way through crowds and such. But it needs to be said that the frame rate, at least on the PlayStation 4, was not fully consistent. At some times it ran at a smooth and beautiful 60 frames per second, and at other times it definitely dipped, especially when you were indoors with a lot of crowds around you. So just be wary that if you are going to buy a console version of the game, you may see some of these graphical dips. However, the detail stays good. It never gets so choppy that you can't play the game, and I definitely thought that it was satisfactory in that regard. There is one major negative, however, about this initial release of Hitman. The loading times on PlayStation 4 are unbearable, sometimes taking upwards of more than a minute to simply reload a previous save so that you can retry from a checkpoint somewhere along a mission. And in a game like Hitman, where you're constantly going to be using trial and error to figure out what the right thing to do is, and you are going to be failing a lot, It absolutely is unacceptable that it takes this long to simply resume the game. It's jarring, it's deterring, and it makes you feel like you're wasting time between loads. I don't know why they released the game in this state and they couldn't find a way to optimize the loading times. In my opinion, that's a major gripe. So despite being relatively short and content light with this first episodic release, this game actually left a pleasant taste in my mouth, and I actually cannot wait to play future episodes throughout the course of the year. My only hope being that I really hope that these episodes end up being longer as they get developed, and they are not all really quick kind of one-off episodes where you just assassinate someone on the fly quickly and then are expected to go back and replay the episode 10 to 15 times to get your money's worth. I'd really like some of the more complexity that was in some of the Hitman Absolution episodes, where it could take upwards of 45 minutes to an hour just to figure out how to actively take out your mark. I guess it remains to be seen if that's going to be in the game. For now, I give it a thumbs up, but I will reserve my full judgment until we play future episodes and we see exactly what is offered in the long term. So thanks everyone for watching this Hitman mini review. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please check the description of the video where you can find a link to the playlist over on my YouTube channel DSP Gaming, where I did a full raw playthrough of this release. In addition, please check out the Amazon Associates link in the description of the video, as well as my Patreon at patreon.com/DarksidePhil. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time for another mini review.